This Headless Professor video is about grading plans for my online classes. Each student has the option of two different plans. One is a very simple plan. I call it the 20th century plan because it's very similar to the kind of grading plan that I had to cope with when I was an undergraduate many decades ago. It's simple because there are no calculations. We simply look at two letter grades, the project and the final exam. In other words, we don't count any kind of online posting. We don't count any midterm exams, preliminary exams, quizzes. We just look at two big components, your term project and the final examination. And then we don't take an average, whether it be a median, mean, or a mode. No, we just look at two grades, the final and the project. Let's suppose that you're not very good at taking tests, and so you get a grade of C on your final exam. And your project, though, you work very hard on, and you get an A for that. So, but remember, this is not an average. We don't look at the average of an A and a C being a B. No, we look at the lower of the two. So because you got a C on the final exam, you end up with a C for the course. Now there is a better plan, a 21st century plan, which I call the multiple options grading system. And the way this works is we have many different ways for you to earn points in this class. And what we're going to do is we're going to count up your 10 best of these 100-point potential components so that you would have about 1,000 points possible. And then you would need 900 for an A, 800 for a B, 700 for a C, and just to barely pass the class with 600 points to get a D. So let's take a look and see what you might be doing in this kind of a situation. We begin the class with the preliminary exam. Suppose you got 85 on that. Each unit, you get a quiz. Suppose your 10 best quizzes added up to 82 points. Now, for most students, the most important thing in the class is your daily posting. Now, suppose you only made 43 posts. Your best 10 were all 9s. That would give you 90 points. Your next best 10 were all 9s. That would give you 90 points. Your next best 10 weren't quite as good, 72, and your last 10 in terms of the grade were not very good at all, only 55 points. Your corrections of other students' posts, your 10 best of those gave you 90 points. You wrote the SLO essay but didn't do so well, only got a 78. You did the project and did fairly well on that. You got an 83. You corrected other people's projects on Google Documents, and you got a 90 on that. And you took the final exam, and you got a 76, which happens to be the median for the entire class. So out of all of these, which of these components should we count? Well, we want to count those on which you did the best, and ignore those on which you did poorly. So when we see a 90, like your corrections of other students' projects, we're going to count those. And let's see, what else did you do particularly well on? You did well on the correction of other students' posts. That's another 90. Those posts where you yourself did poorly, hey, we don't have to count those. But the posts on which you did well, we're going to count. And let's see. You did well in that preliminary exam. We'll count that. We don't have to count the things, including the final exam on which you did poorly on. And remember, you got an 83 on the project, but the project can count 5 times for up to half of your semester grade. We average those 10 components. We get a total of 860 points, and that gets you a B for the class. Well, all of this assume that you did all of these components. But let's change some of the assumptions here. Let's suppose that you didn't do a project. You didn't do corrections. You only did 28 posts. Well, the 28 posts are only going to give you about 20% of your grade. And let's suppose that the best posts were again a 90. But let's suppose that your next best posts were not quite so good. And on your next best post, you only got a 72. So those were the only posts that we would count. Now we would still count your preliminary exam, and we would count the SLO essay, and we would count your 10 best quizzes. And now your final exam would count. And we'd have to count it for half your grade. If you'd done something else, we could count your final exam for a little bit less. But now that final exam has to come in. We total up these 10 components, only 787, getting you a C for the class. So this is the way that the multiple options grading system works. It's really good. And the simplest way to remember how it works is this little song. The more you do, the better you do, the better grade you get. Now at any time during the semester, you can switch from multiple options to the simple grading plan. On the other hand, once you've selected the simple grading plan, you can't go back and do multiple options. And if you're not going to do a project, you can't do the simple grading plan. My advice to all the online students is do the posts. The posts are your best key to getting a good grade in this class.